Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this show is Let's Live with Thurman Greco, and it's coming to you from scenic downtown Woodstock in the Community Center in Woodstock's Educational Channel 23. And then it's coming to you from YouTube. And we have a very good guest this afternoon because this is the political season in Woodstock, and we've got a guest who's running for office, and he's taken a couple of moments out to join us on this show. So can you say what your name is? Say it just like it is on the ballot.
That's a good question. I think it's on as Bill Mckenna for town supervisor. I'll have to double check. I'll get back to you next week, but I'm pretty sure it's on Bill and not William. So I am running for re-election. I'm presently serving my 7th year as supervisor and 18th year on the town board. So I was first elected in 2003. So it's been quite the ride.
Yeah.
And, it's a great community, so I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the people of Woodstock.
Well, the thing is that when you became active in local politics in Woodstock, we were such a small community.
Yes, we were. It had really changed, and when I ran in 2003, I was serving my 8th year on the Zoning Board of Appeals at that point, and I hadn't really even thought about running much for town board, and there was a crazy Democratic caucus that year, and I remember after the caucus, Alan Shapiro turning to me and saying, "You're going to run now, right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And I thought, what the hell? I wasn't even sure what I had just agreed to, but lo and behold, Jeremy Wilbur, Steve Knight, and I ran and prevailed that year. And I was off for 2 years after my first term, and then got back on, and I've been here ever since. And it's interesting because it's a new we're moving into the century, and our community is changing, and it's not quite as sleepy as it used to be, and the world, I think, is not as sleepy as it used to be with internet and YouTube and everything else. I know, I find it interesting with Facebook and whatnot. My mother's from Ireland. She's one of 10, a big family. I'm the oldest of about 50 grandchildren and as many great-grandchildren. And for years, you might not see folks, but now we stay so much more connected with Facebook and YouTube and messaging and whatnot. And it's the same here in Woodstock. We're so much more connected to the world these days. It's not the sleepy little hamlet. I remember when I first moved up in '88, and my brother and I were contractors, and it was January or February, and we were working on a job, and I had to go see Bill Heckeroth, who had a shop. He did plumbing, heating, and electrical, and I had to go see him about a job, and I pull in and do whatever business I did with him, and as I pull back out, I get to the stop sign at Mill Hill and Tinker Street, and there wasn't another car in sight. I mean, town was dead. It was desolate, and it's not like that anymore. You pull out in the middle of January, and odds are you're going to sit there for a few minutes waiting for traffic to subside. So things have changed, but in a lot of ways things have changed for the better too. So we're still a wonderful little community. How long have you been here, Thurman?
I've been here, I think, almost 20 years. We came right after 2001. And of course, we did the stupidest thing. We were clueless. We had been in the city for a vacation for like 4 or 5 days, and it rained on that day, and it was like, well, where are we going to go now because we can't get outside on the sidewalk? So we decided to come up the road and find lunch. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how much we knew about Woodstock.
You came up from Manhattan to find lunch in Woodstock.
Because it wasn't raining up there. We'll go up there, we'll drive until it doesn't rain, and then we'll go in someplace and have lunch. And so we did. And we knew nothing about the background of it, especially my husband. He was in a completely other realm.
Now, let me ask you something, though, because that's not a New York City accent you have.
Oh, no, but I don't discuss that.
Okay.
I come from the South, and, you know, Bill, it's so, what things that are coming out of there, you read the newspaper and it's terrible. So I just don't tell.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, so we came up here, we had lunch, and then we decided that what we would do is walk around a little bit. And we walked around and we saw this house, you know, down there. And it was just the cutest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And very casually I said to him, I said, listen, if that thing ever comes up for sale, I want that house.
Okay.
That's right. That's exactly what he said. Okay.
Okay.
And sure enough, he did. He bought it. And then after he bought it, we came back up here and did the closing. And we were standing around saying, what have we done? This is not the way you retire.
Right.
This is not how this happens.
Well, is there a rule book that says exactly how you...
Oh, there's all kinds of rule books. I just
okay.
supposed to do research in every state. The only research we did was we tried to get a subscription to the Woodstock Times so we could figure out what was happening in the community.
Okay.
And that was it. And the little house was there. And then things got really wacky in the Washington, D.C. metro area because it was after, you know, 2001. And so we just came up here.
Right.
And then we came up here and we stood around in that house and it was like, what are we doing? We still, sometimes I still, what are we doing here?
You know, your story is not unique, though, I don't think. I mean, maybe how quickly it happens. But I talk to a lot of folks, especially with the Airbnb now. You know, I probably can rattle off 5 or 6 different folks that I know that are all actually now full-time residents who first came to Woodstock because they rented an Airbnb and they came up for a weekend and fell in love. And I mean, it's a great community to fall in love. Of course, that's our downside too. I mean, we're such a beautiful, wonderful community. Folks are desperate to get here, and it's, you know, we have limited space, and you know, unfortunately, folks with more money from out of town displace some of the locals. But it's, you know, I think people need to remember it's because we're such a special, wonderful community that's the draw, and I think the draw is still as strong as it's been for years. So that feels good.
Well, you know, when I first came here, I come from an immensely political family. My roots are very, very political because women in Texas are very political. Oh, I said that word. Well, anyway, people down there are very political. And so one of the things I learned is every once in a while you can do something in this town and somebody will come up to you and say, that's not happening here. And
we're a very vocal community.
Are they still doing that?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, that's a great thing. I mean, you know, I'll just mention right off the top, the big thing going on right now is the Woodstock National. And we don't have an application yet, so it's not. I can't even say it's proposed. There's 2 young gentlemen. They're talking about the potential of buying 600 or 700 acres, a lot of property down in Xena area. It runs from Xena down to the town of Kingston and into the town of Ulster. And they have some big ideas. They talked about, you know, a really high-end golf course and the possibility of a heliport and high-end homes and also some affordable homes. And I have to give them credit because they had a great meeting with the Woodstock Housing Committee the other night. And one of the first things that the young gentleman said, he says, listen, we've seen the opposition. We've heard folks, you know, worried about this. He says, the golf course is going to come off the table. We're not going to do that. And he says, we can get rid of the heliport. So the public outcry has already changed their thoughts before they have an application in. So that's a great thing. You know, and over the years, as I mentioned earlier, I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals since '96. So I've been involved in a lot of projects that have come through. And Woodstock, there's probably a dozen different big projects that have been challenged over the years, and people would I don't want to say fight against, but come out against. And, you know, I don't know that it necessarily stopped any of them, but I think it made those projects better. You know, KTD Monastery, I think the folks who came out made it better. The Rupco project behind Bradley Meadows, I think the folks that came out, you know, it made the town pay attention, and it made the developer pay attention and get it done right. And I think those things have enhanced the community. Certainly KTD is probably one of the biggest man-made draws that we have in the community. And so it's a real plus. So.
Well, I can remember the first year that I was here, I came to a lot of the meetings because I was trying to introduce myself to the community, and I would go to all the Woodstock Democratic meetings, and I came to a meeting, and now I look back on it and I realize you did something really, really special. You were trying to rebuild the community center. And, you know, Woodstock is famous historically for, if somebody says, well, we're going to fix something up right away, that's the death knell. This isn't going to happen. You got this community center built. Yeah. But I do remember going to a meeting and people were talking about what they wanted in the community center. And somebody said something, and this little bitty lady came up out of nowhere and she said, well, I'll have you know, you will not make that kind of a change to this building. I got married in this building, and this is the building that I want it to be here when I die. And okay, you know, and we have it. Yeah. And then after it was built, and here was this, and we needed it so desperately, and somebody came to me and said, Thurman, it's ruined. It's totally, what's wrong? The window in the kitchen is wrong. It's right. We'll never be able to have Thanksgiving dinner the way we should. Okay. So, but there is that kind of interest. Is it going to stay?
But again, I, you know, in the moment, that interest sometimes can be a little frustrating. But I can tell you that it's improved all our projects. I was lucky to come on board under Jeremy Wilbur, who was supervisor at the time, and we were just getting started with the highway garage replacement. And that took 3.5 years. Yeah. It was a big one, and there was a lawsuit over it, and you know, the town prevailed. And ultimately we built a great garage, and it worked, and it functions to this day, and it's really benefited the community and the department. The next project, and let me step back. I've been blessed to have a lot of great town board members. Gordon Wemp was on the board, and Steve Knight at that time. The next project that came along, we did the police station, and Jeremy was supervisor. But I'll give Jeff Moran had been involved prior and helped get things teed up. Kathy Magarelli did an incredible job. Jay Wenk and I actually, when we did the police station, he and I built the judge's bench. I did all the rough framing, and he came in and did the finish work. So it was great teamwork. That was an easier project though, because we had a couple of years prior had finished the highway garage, and that turned out well, and people saw that we didn't spend money foolishly, that we did a good job and built a good solid basic building. We got the town hall, as it's called, so it is technically the police station with the courts, and that's just been a great building. We have probably the most beautiful courtroom of any town in Ulster County that serves other purposes as well, meetings and the senior groups. And so this, when we did the community center, it was the third go-around. So even though there was some concern and some opposition, you know, it had really melted away from what we faced with the highway garage. And again, I think people realized, okay, they've done two now, and both of them came out really well. And yeah, I'm really proud of this building, and I think we did a great job. You know, when we did the town hall, PAW actually performed in that space.
Yes.
And there was great concern on their part that they were going to get kicked out and they'd not have any place. And I remember telling a couple of them, I says, I promise the community center's next. I said, we're going to give you a performance space that you'll be proud of. And I know that they're very happy in here. And I know Bird and the Cliff has done a few performances. I'd like to see a little bit more music. I know I've talked to Patrick over at the youth center. The kids have done a couple of concerts here, but the potential is there should anybody want it. And I know that a lot of the members of the community rent out the building for different functions. So yeah, I am very proud of it. We did a good job here. You know, one of the things I talked with someone earlier is about the studio, and you know, it's time to upgrade some of the equipment. And one of the things I'd love to see too is some of the younger kids come in here and start to utilize it, because it's a great space to use, and it's a great way to get a message out. So I hope that this continues to blossom as it has over the years.
It's very important to this community.
Yeah.
I did not realize that this room does influence a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of people for whom this is an important thing. And of course, when we see outside the electrical hookups there, are there any more planned for the future at all?
Here?
Anywhere in Woodstock.
Oh, I'm sorry, what for?
The electrical hookups for the EV, for the cars.
Oh,
because we've got two out there now.
We have two here, and we have two down by the public restroom. So we've got four altogether, and I know that Sunflower, so when Sunflower went through their planning process, they were a little short on parking, but instead of doing parking in lieu of where they would pay a fee, they said, would the town be interested if we would put a charging station in down there? So we've got two down there as well. So presently we have 6 in the area. There's nothing on the slated for now, although we have talked about potentially looking for a grant to do one over at the police station, at the town hall. So I'm sure at some point we'll see another couple sprout up.
Yeah, because we have more and more EVs coming along.
Absolutely. You know, the town bought an all-electric car 3 years ago, I guess, and it's been fantastic. The building inspector and the assessor use it. It's all electric. It's got a limited range of maybe 150 miles, so you might not take it up to Albany, but for riding around town, you couldn't ask for better, and it plugs right into a regular outlet.
Yeah.
So it's really quite good. We at some point, I'm sure we're going to be looking at hybrids for the police car. We were ready to commit, I think the year the pandemic started, and there became such a shortage that we couldn't even get one. And in fact, I think we had to wait even longer than usual for a regular police car. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't move forward at that point. So I see that'll be something the town will add at some point in the near future.
I think the parking lot that's out here off of Rock City Road could have a whole
bank of them,
because you know they're coming. They're coming.
Right.
And they'll come more.
Right. And I think the other place we could is down at the Rock City Road parking lot. And across the way at the Mountain View parking lot,
yes,
are potential locations.
Those are two good potential locations.
You know, the other thing that we just recently put in, and we had set about to do this a couple of years ago, and again the pandemic made things impossible to get, and we were able to pull it off this year, is a water bottle filling station, and we have that down at the public bathrooms in town. It's free. People want to come and, have a recycles bottle they can fill up. So that's another little green initiative that we were able to make happen.
Has anybody talked to you about bathrooms?
The public bathrooms? Well, we have two right now. We've got a men's and women's room there on Rock City Road, and we also have the town hall, which is open 24/7. So, have you heard need for more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to talk about that at some point.
Well, where it happens is because of where I live. People just,
Down on that spur, say downtown Brook.
Yeah, no, it's because I'm standing there,
right,
and they're walking past, and that's when you hear them.
Right.
I had a couple of strangers come up to me and say things, and of course I always tell them, well, I'm not the person you talk to. I'm the wrong person.
So maybe somewhere down, not quite as far, but say by Bank of Green might be a spot for one.
That would be a great place.
I'll have to take a look at that.
Well, but if the library has enough. Of course, it's a long haul.
Up to the library,
if you need a ladies' room, it is a long stroke.
Right.
But that is something, because I do hear it all, a lot about that.
Right. Okay. I'll make a note of that.
That is something that we talk about, and I'm wondering. Sometimes do we have a feel? The people who are coming, are they different?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't have an answer to that. I think people in general probably are a little different. I mean, we grow, society changes. We just went through a pandemic. I think that changed.
I think that changed us all.
All, yeah. And so I guess I would say that we've all changed somehow. So yes, the people coming are different from the people that came 5 years ago. And I don't even know specifically how, but I think you're right. We've all changed to a certain degree.
Because the question that I hear sometimes is that they are different, but then we are all different.
Yes.
It's like we have changed collectively as a group.
Yeah.
As
a state, a nation,
the whole bunch of us,
and the world. I had mentioned earlier my mother's from Ireland, and I know she was recently back, and she noted how much Ireland had changed and how much the youth had changed, and she never really did say. I'll have to pin her down on this. She didn't really say whether she thought it was for the better or the worse, but that she was taken by the change, and so I think we're all in that boat.
The thing that comes to my mind is the people are different, and I know that a lot of people that have moved here in the last 3 or 4 years have come with maybe the same forethought that we gave it. Mm-hmm. It's like, we got to get out of this place, and so here we are.
Yes. So I would say the folks coming up in the last couple of years definitely were in a bigger rush, and the pandemic, things in the city changed. It's interesting because back in 2001, we were talking about adopting a comprehensive plan. There had been a document that the town had spent 12 or 18 months, writing and rewriting and looking over and talking about, and 9/11 happened. And I remember I wasn't on the town board, but on the zoning board, and talking with Jeremy, and the concern at that time was, oh my God, how is this going to change Woodstock? Because we did start to see an influx of people, and we saw, a lot of folks who had weekend homes were now coming up. And, so there was, everyone was hesitant to even adopt this comprehensive plan, not knowing how is this going to affect the town. And ultimately, I don't think it really did. I think after 6 or 8 months, most of the folks went back to the city, and life went on. And I think part of what changed that is that, as folks were coming up, communication with the city was more difficult. There was the internet was new at the time. Emailing was still a relatively new thing that folks were getting used to. Cell phones were not as common, and certainly in Woodstock didn't work. There were all these impediments to being able to do business here. The pandemic changed that. We have YouTube and Zoom and everybody's got a cell phone now that's like a mini computer. And it made it that much easier for folks to actually come up and relocate. And I have a couple of siblings who worked in New York City, and they're still at home, and one sister works for a small company, and they found it was cheaper to let everybody stay at home than to rent space. So they gave up their space in New York City. And so this time round with the technology, it certainly allowed for a more sustained change and a change to town. I will say, one of the things I do note about a lot of folks coming to Woodstock is they like to make U-turns in the middle of town. It's one of the biggest complaints I hear from a lot of the locals is that tell them to go down to the next corner and turn in and come around. So
what about traffic lights?
So for better or worse, Woodstock is the main street through town. Tinker Street and Mill Hill is Route 212, which is a DOT road and governed by DOT. And I know we've talked about a street light down there at Rock City Road at that intersection for years, and DOT doesn't even want to talk about it. They don't think it's necessary. So at this point, I don't see one coming. But, we also do have a complete streets committee. Let me step back. We eventually did get a comprehensive plan adopted back in 2017. Actually, probably a little before that, 2016, when Jeremy was still alive, and we started preparing to do a comprehensive plan. And he started pulling a lot of the documents together, and he passed, but he left me in a really good position of being able to move forward on that. And it took us 18 months, and we had an adopted comprehensive plan. That was the first update to our comprehensive plan since 1964.
Wow.
Which was before I was born.
Right.
And that has brought about a lot of great things for the town. One of them was a number of new committees and boards that we have. And so where I was going with before is we have a complete streets committee that really looks at our streets in total, not just to move cars to and fro, but how others, folks on bicycles and walkers, pedestrians, can utilize these traffic ways. And they're working hard to make it a more accessible community. And we do have slated for, I think, next year, although I think there's probably a good chance it'll be pushed off till 2025, but the DOT has repaved and reworked Route 212 from Mount Tremper down to the end in Saugerties, with the exception of about a mile right in the middle of town.
Ooh.
Yes, Tinker Street. It's probably not even a mile. But they're working on that. So in the next 2 years, next year and a half, they're going to be starting a project from the Village Green out to about the sledding hill by the post office. And what spurred this on is there are 4 bridges in that stretch that all need to be replaced. So, that's the driving impetus. But federal law requires that when they do touch the road, they have to bring it up to certain standards, especially with ADA compliance. So the town is going to get new sidewalks from the Village Green on both sides all the way out to about the sledding hill.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it's going to be it'll be a huge boon to the community there. It's going to make it, walkable, safely walkable all the way out on both sides. So we are excited about that project. It's going to be a big one. It's going to take them 2 years, and I think the budget is approximately $25 million. So, but they're going to do it right, and it'll be all ADA compliant, the sidewalks, there'll be the drop downs at all the curbs and the crosswalks. Hopefully we got a few new crosswalks out of it. I know that there's, some hope that we might get a bike path. I'm not sure that that's going to happen because they're limited with the width of the road, but certainly the Complete Streets is working on trying to get the most bang for the buck. And they've been doing a lot of, they actually went out and got an AARP grant to do 7 or 8 walking audits where they took different sections of the town and they walked them. And I joined them. We walked from the old post or the old library out to where the new library was going to be. And, we made notes. Okay, here's a section here that's really narrow that needs to be widened so that it's safer, and different things like that. So I'm optimistic. We've got some great projects coming down the pike. So.
Well, and of course there's always new things. And when you start adding in the bicycles.
Yeah. So, now in New York State, cars have to share the road with bicycles. So right now, and I've reminded the bicycles of that, but our hope is that if we can get the speed slowed down through town, it'll make it that much safer for the bicyclists. So we'll see where that goes.
Speed.
Yeah.
Speed.
Because the limit is 25 or 30 miles an hour right now.
Really?
Yeah. And we are working on trying to get that reduced. And again, it's all got to go through DOT, so it takes some effort, but cautiously optimistic.
That's very interesting. The Department of Transportation has a say.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's their road, the state.
What about the crossroads?
There are roads, although we do have to go, the state has parameters, but we do have to ask for the state to review and make recommendations. So where was the last one we did?
So just waking up one morning and saying, gee, I'd like to have sidewalks, isn't that easy?
No, not at all. Not at all. We actually, you recall 3 years ago when they repaved a section of Tannery Brook?
Yeah.
So Mike Reynolds was the highway superintendent at the time, and he and I went down and met with the county their Department of Transportation, who was doing the paving, because Tannery Brook is a county road. And
really?
There's an old section of bluestone sidewalk there, and we were hopeful that we would get that refurbished. And if you remember when they took that bridge out just by your house, and it was the little footbridge that they, and we said, well, why don't you just leave that in there and we'll bring the sidewalk right down. And we left the meeting and we thought, okay, we have it. And we were excited about it. And then at some point, somebody must have looked and said, no, we can't do this. So that one was a failure. We didn't get that through. But you mentioned how hard it is. And even when we thought we had it, it didn't happen. But that doesn't mean that next time somebody doesn't say yes. Because, again, every day there's more of a commitment from both the state and the county to be more progressive with regard to foot traffic and bicycle traffic. So, the other thing I'll give a great plug out to, and it's free now, is the UCAT service. When we did the walking tour, when we went from the library to the new library, the Complete Streets Committee had worked out with UCAT to have a minibus come and pick us up by the Dixon Roadhouse to take us back down. And the driver couldn't have been more friendly. He dropped a few people off at their homes, right at their door. So, that's a great service that folks need to be more aware of. And I imagine it's just going to grow. it'll become more accessible.
If somebody's new to the community and they decide to use UCAT, you know, one of the things that's happened here is I do occasionally, or actually more than occasionally, run across somebody who doesn't drive yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of new drivers, but we also have some people that are still holdouts.
Yeah.
How do they connect with the bus?
So I think the where I would start, I mean, they can call my office, and I don't have it with me, but they can call the county transportation number, and that's where I would start the conversation.
Are maps available? Schedules?
I'm sure somewhere online they have a map and a schedule, but they're also they're open to amending and making adjustments. There was what was the issue? I know what it was. 2 years ago, they had the bridge up on above the Bearsville Market was being rebuilt. Actually, I think it was last year, and the Trailways bus had to come down around Wittenberg, come out Wittenberg Road onto 212. And there were a few folks up in Willow who relied on the Trailways bus to get a ride down into town, because they'll stop up there and pick you up. So I was able to get UCAT to adjust their route and add an additional route on. And they would, and they let the people know, okay, Tuesdays and Fridays, we're going to do a route through your neighborhood. So, we'll be here at 2 o'clock or whatever the time was. So there was a lot of flexibility there, and they really worked with the folks. And I know it's very beneficial. The bridge got completed, and Trailways is back in business coming down 212, so they're back on the Trailways again. But, it was interesting. Years ago, I had a client, a young woman who didn't drive, bought a house up on Mink Hollow, only about 2 or 3 houses up from the beginning of the road. And she didn't have a car. She would take the Trailways bus, and they'd drop her off right there, and she would walk. And she had a pet turtle, so she'd carry the turtle up to the house, and she'd stay for a couple of days, and then walk back out and get on the bus. And so where there's a will, there's a way.
What you have to do, I believe, is communicate.
Yes, and listen, I think we all need to be a little responsible, but there's plenty of information out there for any, and again, everybody's got these. These are mini computers. I could probably Google and get the. Oh. I know. There's a downside too, but the information is there. If I wanted to know the UCAT schedule, I could Google that and probably have it in 2 minutes. So it takes a little research. But,
are people who are coming to this community, are they doing that?
I believe so. That's one of the changes. I think people, unfortunately, you see people doing this too much, where they're fixated with the phones. But the other end of it is they're communicating and getting information. Some of it good, some of it maybe not so good, but certainly it's a tool, and like any tool, it can be abused at times, and sometimes works out well. So I don't mean to change the subject, but there was one thing that I did want to kind of talk about.
Because I can chat with the trivia all day long.
And we can get back to that in a minute, but I did want to just mention, because we've gotten a number of calls, the Onteora School District and actually the Sorgdy School District both sent their tax bills out recently, and I know folks in Onteora, a lot of them saw quite a jump, and there were some stories going around, well, the town hasn't done a reval in years, and this is why there was this big jump. And while it's true, we haven't, it's been 7 or 8 years now since we did our last reval, that really hasn't affected why our taxes have gone up. The big issue that we've seen is in New York State in general, the value of property has gone up. Your home is worth more than what it was a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And for Woodstock, that's magnified. So there were 6 towns actually, part of Woodstock, Olive, part of Hurley, Shandaken, and then Middletown and Lexington both have a little chunk in the Ontario School District. And while all the values, all the properties have gone up in all those communities, Woodstock has gone up at a far higher rate. Again, this is a desirable community. We're victims of our own success. And, people are willing to spend quite a bit. So we have talked about doing a reval the last 2 or 3 years. And, we've really put it off because we wanted to try and let that meteoric rise kind of slow down a little bit. Because if we had done a reval, say 2 years ago, it'd already almost be out of date. The prices have gone up. So that's really the cause of it. And the simplest way I can explain is if you look at the tax levy for the school district, think of it as a pie. And last year, Woodstock's portion of that pie was 36.3%. The next biggest chunk was Olive, which was 29.3%. So Woodstock was 7% bigger. And then it goes down from there. Shandaken is about 18.3, Hurley was 14.6, and so on. This year, Woodstock is 39.8%. So we went up 3.5%. Our pie grew by that much. We went from paying last year $16 million to this year paying over $18 million. So that's where this increase came from. It's not that there hasn't been a reval. It's just that the value of Woodstock has grown quicker than the value of the other communities. And in fact, so while Woodstock went up 3.5%, Olive went down 2%. So now we went from a 7% difference to a 12% difference. And so while the total levy increase in Ontario only went up to 2%, they were under the cap. Who was paying has varied greatly. So, and I'm happy to have further conversation if anybody wants to give me a call at the office, or even here if somebody's got a question. My office number is 679-2113 extension 17. I'm happy to talk about this. I know it's a little bit of a dry subject, but it is one that's on folks' minds these days. So.
I think the next time you come, we should have an open phone line so people can call.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
And if anybody wants to talk to any of the board people that are running and you have questions, all you have to do is call them into your office we'll get the questions and answer them.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Years ago I used to come on with Sam Mercer, and I always used to say, I might not have the answer right now, but call me back next week. Call me with your question next week. I'll try and have the answer. And there were a few times I come back, oh yeah, you remember John, you called about that. And,
well, the thing is that the changes are coming so quickly.
Yeah.
It is hard. And when we talk to you, your memory is very good. You do know what's happening. And of course, I am probably the person who is most impressed with what happens when it snows and these trucks come. I love those trucks. And they come out of that money, and I love seeing those trucks. I mean, yes. I don't have any problem paying those taxes.
Woodstock has always been very lucky with their highway department. They do a great job. They work hard. All the town employees. We're really fortunate with the group of folks we have. And, it's not totally uncommon. We had a great experience 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were paving, the highway department was paving Yerry Hill. And in the middle of it all, we have a paver that we share with Hurley and Ulster. And in the middle of the paving, the paver broke down. And what was worse is that we had 5 or 6 trucks filled with blacktop. So the blacktop, when we pick it up, it's hot, and we need to dump it while it's still hot. So now the blacktop is cooling in these big trucks, and Heather Amy, who's the temporary highway superintendent up there, she started to sweat, and she started to call around to ask other towns if they had paving and could take this blacktop. And Sorgetes, the highway superintendent down there, says, "Oh, I got a paver sitting here. You want to? Well, I'll send my crew up." And within an hour, their crew was up here and helping us finish the job. So it's the towns in general, we all cooperate, but the highway departments in particular are really great about working together. And, that was just another example. One of the fellows that came up, John Lowry, and you couldn't ask for a nicer guy, and he took care of it like he was doing his own.
And also in this town, people are so polite. We've been trying to get an electrical situation, a plumbing situation, and an electrical. But the plumbing, we finally called the town,
Mm-hmm.
and the response was so positive. And we didn't get. I didn't have the feeling that I disturbed somebody from a fancy something or other. They were willing to work with us. That is worth an awful lot of this.
I couldn't agree more with you. When I remember in the early days of the pandemic, and there was this huge push on the governor. He wanted us to send employees home, and I kept saying, "Wait a second." I said, "It's important that we keep the workers safe, but we need the workers. We need to be here to help the public."
Right.
And it was really important, and so we got the criteria for what we had to do, and I'm not going to fib. I finagled things, but I was adamant about keeping the doors open, making sure people were safe, but keeping the doors open. And by and large, the town employees were great about it. And every one of them, they just pitched in. We were one of the few places between New York City and Albany where you could get a marriage license.
Yeah.
And we saw the number of licenses that we were giving out triple.
Yeah.
And I might have told you this last time I was on, but one of the young clerks, Michelle, one day I looked at her and I said, "You'd be a great marriage officiant." And she kind of giggled and laughed it off. And a couple days later, she says, "Do you think the town could appoint me?" And I said, "Oh my God, I'd be happy to." So we appointed her. And it wasn't a week later, and we realized, so we are allowed to appoint marriage officiants, but they must live in the town. So poor Michelle, she was devastated over this. And, I'm trying to console her a little bit, and we're chit-chatting. And I don't know, I must have just heard an ad on the television. I said, "My God, $39.95, you too can be a reverend." She got her license. And I want to say she's over 100 weddings now that she's done in 3 years. And it's just one more really nice service that the town provides. And I know that you called, and I know you got the town clerk, and she calls me immediately, and we couldn't ask for a better town clerk. We have one of the best in the state.
Yeah, and that's
Jackie Early.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That counts for a lot. So even though there's a lot of changes going on, we have a lot going for this community.
Absolutely.
One question I do have, what's coming up?
What's coming up? Well, so and we can talk about this at a later show. One of the other things that came out of the comprehensive plan was an understanding two things. One, the community recognized that we have a severe housing shortage, especially affordable housing, and that was the number one issue. The other issue was that everyone felt really important that we continue to protect the environment, and I won't. When I saw that, and I thought, "Oh my God," my concern was those two things to a lot of people might appear to conflict with one another: housing and save the environment. And but I thought, okay, if we can get this right, this could be groundbreaking. And so we've had a committee that's been working now for over 2 years, and they're just putting the finishing touches on I think it's the third or fourth version of a document that we hope to see adopted over the next couple of months. So this is going to amend our zoning law. It's going to improve options for housing, but at the same time protect the environment. And so one quick example, one of the things that right now, if you had 100 acres, say the zoning was R10, I'll do that for easy math. You could have 10 lots, 10 equal lots all around of 10 acres. The new zoning is going to look at saying, no, let's keep the 10 houses in one corner and leave the other 90 acres untouched and forever wild and create paths and whatnot. And then there'll be bonuses for density where, you might be able to create two affordable houses in one building. So that's going to be coming down. We're going to be scheduling a public hearing for that over the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned earlier, the complete streets, I know that they've got a number of different things they're looking at to make it a more accessible, friendly community to get around. We have the zoning revision committee that's looking at a number of different changes. And I've got a committee looking at the youth center. And I know when I appointed them, I said, look, the youth center is your main charge. But they said, can we look at the property overall? I said, sure, youth center first. But so they're looking at possibilities. And I know that they've got a lot of great ideas. I'm supposed to meet with them next week to just get an update on where they're coming, what they're coming up with. So I think there's a lot of interesting things going on. And, we're still working our way through the noise issue and the music, trying to find a balance there. I am proud, for years the music venues were not very busy, and we've become a music community again, a colony of the arts. So that feels good to me. And I look forward to being able to find a balance where everybody feels comfortable and happy. So we've got challenges, but a lot of good people working on it. So.
Well, there is a lot going on. We have a few minutes left over. When is election day?
7 minutes.
Oh, we have 7 minutes. Can we talk a little bit about voting?
Sure. So election day is the 7th, I think, right? And there's early voting. I haven't heard yet whether the early voting is going to be here in Woodstock or in Saugerty. So I'll get that information and let you know the next time I come on. I love it when it's here. It's so convenient.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the early voting runs for 10 days prior to the, starts this 2 Saturdays before the general election and runs through that Sunday, and then they take Monday off to recalibrate the machines, and then they're back open again. So, yeah. And we've got a good slate, good candidate for district attorney running, and Jen Metzger is running unopposed. So, got a good man in Donald. Has Donald Allen been on your show yet?
No.
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe I'll get him, and we'll come back on next one Friday.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about highway.
Well, this is civic hour every Friday now,
Yeah.
from now until election day.
Okay.
We're hot on the trail of informed people.
Okay.
Because when you come to a new community, of course, like everybody says, they ruined the kitchen. They didn't get the but there's a lot of other things that you don't even know you don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's very important. I think that's probably the most important. Knowing what you don't know.
Yes. We could all take a lesson there. And again, especially with this, there's so much information, so much disinformation. It was interesting. I try to stay off Facebook, but I was scrolling through and I saw somebody that I know, not well, but I know him, just chit chat with a little bit, and he had a couple of comments, and I thought, oh my God, he's so far off base. He doesn't, and I didn't want to say something right there on Facebook because that Now all of a sudden that's embarrassing. I private messaged them and I said, if you ever want to talk, I said, I'm happy to have a discussion. And we may disagree, we may agree. And we went back and forth, and I gave him the office number, and we did connect the other day, and we had a great conversation. And he says, boy, I didn't fully understand. And, he got a clearer picture of it. So it's, communication is key.
Listen, now there are so many new people. There are so many things happening in this community. None of us know enough.
No, this is true. Even me. There are things that I'll find out, oh boy, when did that happen? Oh, it was a couple of weeks ago. So there is a lot going on, both locally, nationally. It is hard to keep up. Life seems far more complicated than it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. I mean, without a doubt. And which is interesting because we have more gadgets and gizmos to try and keep us on track, and it doesn't seem to help.
All that does is slow people down.
Yeah,
I think in some cases. I really do.
Right. So
we just have 4 minutes. Okay, if somebody wants to get in touch with Bill Mckenna, how do you get in touch with you if you're trying to vote, you're trying to figure out if you have some questions?
So I'll give my cell phone number too. My office number is 845-679-2113, extension 17. You can leave a message over the weekend. I'll get back to you next week. My cell phone, or you can text me, is 845-532-2358. I'm happy to have a conversation, meet for a cup of coffee, or maybe we can answer the question over the phone. So, and like I say, an informed public is educated. It's a good thing. It's a benefit, because I'm proud of all the things we've achieved over the years, and I think if people have a good understanding, it's a benefit. So.
Do we have any public meet and greets coming up?
We're working on a couple, and maybe next week I'll have some dates for you.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Because we're getting close.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for coming to this show and paying attention, getting ready to vote. And I especially want to thank Ellen, because
great job.
we got a show because of Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, guys. Say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you, Woodstock. Enjoy the weekends. And Happy New Year to our Jewish neighbors and friends and family.
Ah, very nice.